Hi guys, my name is Borodante, and welcome back to Overpain. Today's patient is Casmanian. Hey Borodante, hello. I got a Huion for Christmas, so I've been slowly transitioning from traditional art to digital. Doing pretty well as I can see. This is my first completed piece, and I was hoping if you could do an overpaint on it and give me pointers. The painting is a concept art of a creature from my book known as a hellbirch. Hellbirches are deformed and hideous versions of spriggans, often attacking and devouring anything deemed a threat to the wildlife around them. They guard a small forested island known as the Dull, where the oldest cults of Vaetrikel are rooted. Alright. Anyways, I aimed to create an imperfect, twisted, revolting creature that was still somewhat magical and exhibited elements of nature. I hope you have fun with it. I hope so as well. Spriggan, a legendary creature known from Cornish fairy lore. Okay, so they're like wooden dudes. An anthropomorphic creature that sort of like grew as a tree. And this is the birch version of that. Cool. So, this is obviously a very cool looking picture and a really awesome concept. I love this cinematic kind of shot with the out of focus background, which is a great way to use the digital part of the art. I pretty much like the composition. I love the realistic lighting, except maybe we want to make it a bit more interesting, a bit more dynamic. I don't know, but we'll see. Mostly, what we can do with this picture is actually finish it. Put more work into the surface detail. This is a really good kind of picture to put as much effort into very tiny and impressive details of the surface, because like half of the picture is just an out of focus blurry thing and we really can't touch it. We can't add any kind of details out there because in that case it will break the whole effect of out of focus. So we have a very convenient situation where we can put all of our effort onto the details of just the character. And this is what we're gonna do. Basically, I'm gonna be just looking up all kinds of birch tree references to see how exactly the tiny details on the trunk of this majestic tree go, and work things through. Maybe I'll put some extra work into the lighting, although I'm not sure if that's necessary. Pretty much somewhat of a flat lighting of the ambience of the forest. It looks really well. I don't think adding some sunlight would improve the picture at all, but we'll see. Let's search. Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to say etc. on this thing because I've been detailing it for about an hour and it's pretty much the same thing for the whole process. Don't get me wrong, we are going to finish this because I really want to see what this character is gonna look like fully rendered. The thing about this character is that it's pretty much just a tree of a very vague anthropomorphic shape, and because of that the whole interesting part of this character is in its details. Without the details it's pretty much just a mushy something, you know, a bunch of shapes that's not that interesting. It is gonna look like that average enemy from the Resident Evil 7. The interesting part starts where you can see how this is a living creature that somewhat resembles a human being, but it really has a surface that is so much like a real tree. So paying attention to the details, learning exactly how the birch tree trunk goes, its surface, its little details, really pays off with adding more and more details like this. As usual, for working on details, which is obviously my main subject of this month, I'm really into going into smaller details lately because I think I kind of figured it out a little bit lately. And the main trick for the small details is pretty much in the brush. the way you treat it, the way you set it up, and the way you put brush strokes on the canvas, obviously. So I started with these very rough, sharp, and messy kind of strokes of the original, and what I did is I used my, not exactly a smooth brush, but it's a soft brush, which is a big difference, right? Generally, it is a sharp brush, but it has a very low flow setting. And because of that, low flow of a sharp brush gives you this really convenient and very powerful transition from these rough, quick strokes that you build the character with and going into smaller details and being able to create details that are like beyond the definition of the strokes. So you can kind of like, in here you can see I replaced the sharp strokes with semi-transparent ones, fighting for the edges of the objects back and forth with the color of the character and the opposite color of the background sky, and so on and so forth. And sometimes I just leave it slightly semi-transparent kind of thing, and that brings this feeling that there's more to it than just what the definition of the strokes can show you. Like this semi-transparent transition over here kind of implies that there may be like a lot of smaller details, like smaller branches in there, but it's just that the strokes are much bigger than the detail itself. But it doesn't mean that the character should be less detailed if we have bigger strokes. And so I used this trick pretty much on everything, even new branches like these. When I create them, I make like a black cylindrical line, but then I grab the color of the surrounding and kind of make it a more complex shape. And sometimes I will leave this also semi-transparent fight between the edges, because it just creates this illusion that there is more to it than the definition of the strokes can show. And that is the biggest difference from what these strokes show. These strokes show very sharp, specific details, but nothing beyond that. There's no ability to show more details than there is actually brute force defined by the strokes. I mean, of course, this is the rough stage of build-up, so you can generally imagine that there's a lot of stuff going on in between all of these messy lines, but it requires like a little bit of imagination to figure it out, because this is what the rough build-up stage is like. When we talk about the finalization, the actual details of the final product, that's where this kind of detailing with semi-transparent low flow strokes really pays off. So yeah, in this case, I studied a little bit how the surface of the birch tree trunk goes. It has several kind of details. These kind of smooth, big, white stripes going horizontally all over the place. They don't have any blackness to them, but they show up all over the place constantly. There are like wrinkles. Then we have a lot of really small black dots. So these are gonna cover a lot of the character in the end. For now, I haven't done it so far, only put them somewhere, and it really increases the definition. And of course, a lot of bigger black dots. Some of them have actual white surface showing up as well, which is something that happens. So pretty much you just learn the way the surface go in the reference object and break it down to several kinds of tricks to use, you know? The wide, smooth, horizontal wrinkles, the smaller black dots, the bigger black dots that sometimes have the white thing going on inside. Sometimes they have like stripes continuing from them, showing the direction of the actual tree fibers going on inside. And of course, really important, a really good detail that makes things look a lot more realistic is adding the highlight on top of the big black spots like this. So it looks like it actually broke through the white surface and created a hole, because this is what happens on the real birch tree. They always have this effect of breaking through the surface. Like in here I did it as well, and pretty much all the big ones should have this effect. So that was one of the major major detail improvement from the original, I think. And yeah, generally I made the lighting a bit softer, added slight reflexes, like reflection on the darkest surfaces when they're actually barely lit with the light. So this is a rim reflection of the background, that's why it has this color. And it brings a really cool definition to the geometry of the face of this creature. It looks kind of cool. So this is yet another trick on what to do with the details of an object when it's very dark, when there is no lighting to show the details. One of the tricks is the one that I use a lot is air perspective. You can start defining just silhouettes with the fog behind the really dark side of the object. But in this case, it won't really work because we work with a very photorealistic kind of rendering with the out of focus effect in the background. So a very strong air perspective is not gonna work. This is a very artistic, like painting kind of look. And in here, we need to only use the realistic photographic effects. And this is where the second trick of defining a very dark side of the object really works well, and that is defining the rim reflection, so using the advantage of the Fresnel effect. Fresnel effect really kicks in when the surface of an object is dark, so the reflection can be brighter than the surface of an object. And as Fresnel effect goes, the reflection becomes brighter on the edges when the surface of the object turns away from the camera, so closer to the edge of it, it becomes brighter. Literally the way my head does right now. So yeah, this is pretty much it for what I have to say about it. I will continue working on it, but I think I'm gonna do that next morning without recording my face, so we're just gonna have a lot of a cool time lapse in the end. But as for me talking, this is it. Thank you so much, Kazmanian, for your submission. This is a really cool looking character, very well built and visualized. I love the work with the lighting, the realistic colors. You obviously also worked a lot with the references, I think. At least for the colors of the white part of the surface. They look very realistic with a nice play of warm and cold colors on the different angles of the surface, which looks really cool. And the only thing I thought I could help you with is to talk about how to go further, how to transition from these rough, really bold strokes to actual high definition details. So yeah guys, make sure to watch the end of the video for the cool time lapse. If you want your own artwork to be overpainted like this by me, the link to my Patreon page is in the end of this video. There you can also download the final result of this picture. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe, tell a friend. Think beyond your brush strokes. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye! Alright guys, so here's the process. I decided to use the advantage of this kind of structure of the episode to actually show you a very slow time lapse. So this is gonna be sped up just 5 times, allowing you to see pretty much every single stroke I made while working on these hardcore details. So this part of the video is gonna be like, what, 28 minutes? So multiply that by 5 and that will be the actual time of the process. So yeah, just enjoy the time lapse and some cool music, I suppose.
In a city full of sounds, I know my way around. We are of the same kind. Endangered species hard to find. I'll give you some lone time. I need to go catch a high tide, 'cause I don't feel free. So I'm letting you know where I want to be. Driving by the shore, listening to a broken radio. Skyline neon lights are waking up the rangers of the night. Designated life. Feel the cold wind on my face. stones into the sea. I'll give you some lone time. I need to go catch a high tide, 'cause I don't feel free. So I'm letting you know where I want to be. Driving by the shore, listening to a broken radio. Skyline neon lights are waking up the rangers of the night. The into the sea. I'll give you some alone time. I need to go catch a high tide, 'cause I don't feel free. So I'm letting you know where I want to be. Driving by the shore, listening
Oh boy, can't wait to see what I'll do with this picture tomorrow. Don't disappoint me, the future me. I'm so sleepy.